Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Saturday. What's going on, beautiful people? It's December 6th, 2025. The time was 4:55. Let me see, has it changed? Yep, it's still 4:55 on the dot p.m. Hope you are doing well. I'm just going to do a quick cut and just kind of flip some cards real quick and see what we got. No pre shuffle today. Well, I did shuffle, of course. I shuffled extensively actually, but I really wasn't tapped in for a preview. I was just clearing the energy pretty much. So let's see what we got right off the top. Really? Well, that's interesting. All right, what's with the devil? What was that? Not the Four of Wands. It flipped back and flipped out and flipped back, so I'm not going to take it, of course. But the Four of Wands, Lord, is somebody's home hexed? Or is there... hold on. Jesus. Hold on. 1 second. Haunted, hexed, disturbed. Is there a disturbance of the peace in somebody's home? That was also what? Gemini energy, and we are still in the Gemini full moon. Going back down from the Four of Wands to the Three. What is that about? Somebody's looking for an escape, if that's the case. Hold on, let me see. Who's somebody looking out for? Connected to this damn devil. Somebody's anticipating something. Oh, relief. I was going to say relief too, but escape just made more sense when we're thinking about perhaps somebody's home. Relief. Looking at that, looking for relief after the devil, which could be some type of contract, entanglement. It's not a positive one, for sure. It's not the way the cards are going. It's not looking like it's anything. So, let's see. Or somebody, it could also be an oath or a pledge is what I'm also hearing, that someone agreed to, and now it's become a binding, like something binding. They're bound to something. It could be somebody bound to a home or to some type of establishment or arrangement or arranged marriage. I just heard that. It could be somebody bound to some type of maybe arranged relationship or agreement or contract, commitment, whatever, but it's binding now to the point where somebody feels like they have no way out, and they're desperately, relentlessly, at least desperately at worst, waiting for some type of relief or rescue. Search and rescue? Like somebody feels lost and lost in captivity. What does that even mean? Like somebody feels stuck in a place, but I don't know, like they feel like a prisoner in their own home. Oh, or in this organization. Like I said, a pledge, an oath, an agreement. And maybe the reason why they feel stuck is because of whatever promise or pledge that they made to whatever their circumstances are. There's something about it that has gone beyond words, perhaps, where it's more than just it's more than just like it's more than just a handshake that's binding these terms. You know, it's like deeper than that, which is why, you know, if someone could escape, oh, Queen of Pentacles here, if someone could escape, they would gladly, or could even, you know, be put out of their misery by way of the Four of Swords. They would even consider that at this point, but it's like they're being requested to, they're being expected to fulfill the terms of this arrangement and carry it out, you know, for whatever the decided time is, or for whatever the terms are, by whatever the terms are. And it's completely unreasonable, you know. It doesn't seem like something, like when you got the devil involved here, it seems like almost hopeless to be able to fulfill certain terms, and then the consequences of perhaps breaching or defaulting on whatever this agreement is are that much more burdensome. So it's like somebody's feeling like they're up under somebody's thumb, you know, maybe even the pressure of whatever this diabolical entanglement or attachment may be itself. They feel like it's more powerful than them. It has more authority. It has the upper hand, and somebody ultimately feels like they're at the mercy of whatever this force is. Like they don't have many alternatives for salvation. For salvation at this point, it's like they don't see a silver lining in there being any rescue out of these circumstances, or even any loophole, if we're talking practically, out of these terms. They just gonna have to ride them out, I guess. I mean, oh no. Let me see one more. What's that? The Two of Cups. Yeah, so it feels like somebody is, I just heard bound by blood. With the Empress. I don't even know what that is. Give me one more of that. With the Six of Cups. Something. What? That's kind of weird. So I'm seeing like somebody's bound. It feels like it kind of takes a bit of a turn based on what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing like somebody's bound by something. They're being consumed by a contract or an agreement that was made either long before them, but on account of them, or that someone was actually like almost the collateral of. That's what I'm getting, because this is the Six of Cups is some type of past energy, maybe even past life. Yeah, I'm getting 505 as my phone is lighting up here. It's like something, some type of, like, let's say, practically speaking, like a mom, because that's what the Empress is showing up as right now. Like a mom made some type of covenant or agreement with an organization, or with some type, like she pledged herself to an organization, or pledged herself and her offspring to some association, you know, or pledged herself in a way where, how could that be though? I'm hearing it, but because like it was, okay, so let me work backwards, because I'm seeing like somebody that's just now, it could even be like somebody that was ultimately kind of trauma dumped on to be more or less the curse breaker for their lineage, was charged with the task of breaking something that was, I want to say ancient, but at least old, you know, like maybe not multiple lifetimes if you can't get into that, but certainly like generational or circumstantial. And they were put in the position to shift the dynamic that was all like that their predecessors had already kind of laid the groundwork or the framework for, signed up for in some way, shape, or form, by their behaviors, again, by their associations, by their agreements with certain things, even in how they live their lives, the choices that they've made. It at one point in time, maybe the ancient part established the resonance of a cycle, maybe even a curse. But by each generation coming, more or less being in that place of invitation to change or shift, transform, do something different for the sake of the bloodline to track a different path, everything being a matter of choice, for whatever reason, it's all trickled down to someone in present day that, by what I'm observing, has seemed to have perpetuated the cycle as well. The cycle that they were more or less favored to be the discontinuance of, you know, or that stopping point of continuation. Because I'm seeing like this Empress almost like as a mom who, but it could have been a mom in this lifetime, or like I said, this could be representation of something that's being birthed in a bloodline over and over again. This opportunity, again, this curse, this deficiency, this void, whatever it is, it's come cyclically, and it's like the past is more or less been realized again here with the Six of Wands, in a way where someone has found themselves entangled in that stronghold that they were ultimately designed to discontinue or to break. I know, like, that was so roundabout to say that, but I don't know. Let me see. Let me move on to the next one. Let's see. You know, it's like the scripture, well, if you know, you know, that the sins of the father are more or less passed down to the sons or to the children, or whatever the case may be. It could be mother, father, you know, to go a bit deeper. This could even be like some type of traditional dynamic when we're seeing the Hierophant and the Empress, like some type of union of sorts, in a very traditional and conventional sense that more or less has become like the status quo or the standard. Consider, indoctrination of religion and just how things, customs are passed down on and on and on. And in some cases, you don't even know how the things that you're saying, repeating, proclaiming, writing, even the directives that you're following, the messages you're interpreting, sometimes can actually be acting as a live curse in your life, and or upon others unjustifiably, and you not even really be intentional to do so. So it's like that's the passive way that this thing is playing out, where somebody just got lost in convention and tradition, where they were actually born and bred to break it, to innovate it, I would say, less than being rebellious per se, or I should say more than being rebellious. There was a call to evolve and to, like I said, like almost, what is the word I just used? Like to almost be revolutionary in how you carry on those customs or not, or integrate whatever truth it is that you feel has been, revealed to you, or expressed through your experiences. Whatever the case, like I said, it just feels like somebody ultimately circled back around and kind of found themselves a little bit stuck. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to see what's next, because I'm still feeling this sense of potential, to break out and break through. But it's definitely looking like, what's this? The Queen of Swords. Yeah, I take that confirmatively. It's like there's still opportunity, but with the Queen of Swords, it's like a raw truth, So it's like the reality is it ain't over till the fat lady sings, as they say. But it's not going to be an easy transformation at this point. Like somebody has entangled themselves not only in the same stronghold that has been continual or continuing in their bloodline, but because they were in such a significant or prominent position to break it and discontinue, it's like something is mounted on top of what they would have already needed to do to fulfill their purpose and their mission. And it doesn't change the mission, but what's missing at this leg of the journey is the grace and the lenience, the nurturing, the maybe even the guidance, that soft hand, with the Queen of Swords showing up, is not there. It's like now become more of a harsh, not dictation, but like a supervision. I mean, and this is a judge, and the Queen of Swords can be some type of legal representation as well. So I don't know, maybe somebody's pretty much like down to their last chance, and now they're having to face the consequences of their behaviors, or the perpetuation of some offense here. I don't know what, but let's see. What's the Queen of Swords here for? Oh, Chariot. Wow. We know that can be the police sometimes, but it's definitely to advance some type of agenda forward. I'm getting, especially with the Queen of Swords, like if there is any justice involved here, it's like it's not necessarily, maybe rough justice or tough justice, but it's like raw is what I'm getting more than anything. You know, it's like no fluff. It's no rigid justice, where it's not like a lot of room for grace and leniency and this and that. It's just like, okay, well, here's where we are. This is your offense. This is your sentence. Now, off you go. You know what I mean? Like, there's really just not a lot to be said when the chariot is already moving. It's rolling. And if it's coming behind the Queen of Swords, which should be some type of clarity, objectivity, you know, directness. Maybe sometimes a little bit calloused, maybe even a little critical. I don't know. Wow, with the Emperor here. And that's interesting because the Emperor is the one usually driving the chariot. An emperor-esque figure, you know. And now he's here on the throne. Let me see. With the Ace of Cups. It's like a homecoming for an emperor. And the homecoming, this feels like completely left field as well, but I'm sure it's not. It's just probably two stories happening at the same time. I've been dealing a lot with dueling dimensions lately, where something in one part of one reading is one thing, and then in the other is something completely different. Like, this is, I believe, the type of reality we're stepping into, where you could have stark realities that, for all intents and purposes, maybe shouldn't be. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. Maybe this is what the trajectory that someone was on, you know, or could have had opportunity or potential to achieve. You know, like with this chariot, it's like the Emperor, when he was young, maybe out in the field, out in the world or wherever, like fighting his battles, sowing his royal oats, maturing, evolving. Now at the card of the Emperor, like when they were out, you know, gaining their stripes or whatever. But now at the card, the Emperor, is like somebody, again, their homecoming or their ascent to the throne in some type of way, like when they were in training to now when they're ready to actually take that seat, and they're being met with a great, it's like everything's in alignment to do so. You know, this is the anointing, I guess, of the divine, like choosing its forces in the earth or in the three-dimensional sense, you know, like anointing its leaders, I should say, or a leader in this case, because it's, you know, it's singular in how it's depicted, but it definitely could be, you know, a collective experience, you know, that the oil is being poured out, you know, and anointing of leaders that have been chosen for whatever particular purpose, and, you know, have ultimately already been ordained. Like, consider King David, where he was anointed when he was young, but he had a great deal of life experience and life lessons to go through before he actually took his seat, in that position. The anointing was there before that, though, and then he sat in his, on his rightful throne. It's something like that here, where there's like maybe even an announcement of this, what do you call it? Like coronation, or I forget what you call it. Like, I guess coronation, but announcement of something, like some type of officiation or something of, I don't know. I'm having a hard time saying words, but I feel like this is confirmative, like this Ace of Pentacles here. Yeah, it's like a torch is being passed, or a right to govern is being dispersed. An achievement, an accomplishment, a title, perhaps, is all what the Page of Pentacles could be, like something kind of tangible. Maybe the estate, someone's becoming the patriarch or the proprietor of an estate, that they've been in grooming for a while, for a long time, considering the look of the Chariot to the Empress. It's just signifying some maturity, or at least some evolution through experience that is now paying off. It's now being recognized and rewarded. And it's like the difference between, like the synergy between these is that there could have always been this invitation, like the blanket connection is this invitation to transform from a continuance of a cycle, dare I say a curse, or some type of just disturbing agreement that, where the terms are not fair, ultimately, where the terms are imbalanced. That was the invitation overall. And what I'm seeing is like the depiction of someone that couldn't follow through with that charge, maybe gets to kind of like spin the block, start again, revisit some lessons, or revisit some of their choices, reform maybe perhaps in some way, and then someone that actually did step to the challenge fearlessly with the Chariot here, that was creative, that took, not to say that there weren't any errors, but they took a particular dominance over what they could build and create, as the Emperor. A certain determination and tenacity, toward whatever challenge they met. It was like no challenge too great. I think I need one more card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let me get one more. There was no challenge too great. Yeah, but they, they found their position and they didn't pivot, And now the energy it feels like transitioned from fighting for something, even for one's own survival or affirmation in some type, like almost as if David thought he had to fight the giant in order to be confirmed as the so-called, chosen one for his position, when we know that that's not necessarily true. However, you know, those series of experiences are ultimately what groomed him to rightfully take the position that was reserved for him. And now all of that energy that was exerted and invested, even when it wasn't necessarily streamlined for the purposes of being king, still does get to transfer over into now protecting, securing. So it's like you're not fighting for a kingdom. You're not fighting to be recognized. You're not fighting to earn position or to earn prominence or prosperity, recognition, or even confirmation or affirmation, particularly of why you should be in said position, or, you know, whatever we're talking about here. Now it's just a matter of using all of those energies that have been acquired through that striving to now firmly establish your position of power and guard it. What I'm trying to get to is not a fighting for anymore, or even a fighting against. It's just a defense. You know, it's just a matter of protection and security. That's a different energy exerted than when you think that everything that you do ultimately is I should say the reception of stability and security in an established position, even of authority over your own life, is contingent upon every move that you make. You know, like if I do this, or if I do, like, everything is always hanging in the balance, or always up in the air, or up for negotiation or consideration, depending on every single move that you make. That's a little bit more of an involved energy than when you have all the things, you know, the recognition, the reward, the position, and now, you know, like, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone or anything or by any standards anymore, except for whatever it takes to just maintain whatever's been bestowed upon you. That's what I'm trying to get to. So again, the stark difference between the energies that I'm picking up is that somebody's still finding themselves in the striving phase, you know, like where they were ultimately put in position to establish this point of arrival, so to speak, whatever that, you know, even really means. Instead, they're still in the fight or flight mode, in a sense. They're still having to, you know, run it back, so to speak, where they're having to kind of fight for everything that they think they are due or deserving of, and in some cases, just like I said, to survive or keep your head above water. And this is a different flow, literally, with the Ace of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles, because it's more a posture of reception and defense, you know, reactionary as opposed to proactive. I mean, it's a different sense of security when you just have to protect what you already have, as opposed to having to get out and beat the pavement for it and not really know if you're ever going to get it, you know? I mean, you could argue that each has its pressures, because once you have what you have, you don't really want to lose it, which is why this energy is ending this pile here. I get that, and these are big blessings to protect, so I could get the pressure to do so. I'm getting, like, that's what I'm getting, like, the exaltation of the divine masculine here, you know, where the feminine aspect has been charged differently, of course, than the masculine, where masculine really has been at war, like taking those blows, like almost, you know, like at the on the front lines in some capacities. So it is a great challenge of transition to go from, again, being in fight or flight, and more fight than anything, because clearly with the Chariot and the Emperor, this is somebody that ain't run from no fight, never did. So to always pretty much be in fight mode, or in the position on guard, is what I'm getting. Like always on guard to actually being in grace. That's a different frequency. It's definitely cause for adjustment on that. And some that ultimately were on guard but didn't fully receive the dispensation of grace and integrate it, productively, are now finding themselves on guard on a different level. Because it's different to be on guard but still in the privilege of grace, and still receiving and gaining, and even growing in some way, shapes, and forms, at least in an illusionary way that seemed real and sustainable, to stripping down from all of that, having to fight, to recover, and then doing so without that sense of grace, that spirit of grace that was taken for granted before. Like you never really know how much grace you've had in a thing in a way, until you don't have it and you notice the stark difference. I don't know, it's just and then when you come to the realization that more or less like you were the cleanup crew for what's been done way before you, or before, like, it's like making decisions that your predecessors making decisions that, let's say, were known to have trickling consequences or repercussions on generations to come, but doing it anyway. And even if there was an ignorance or some type of unintentional agreement, it still doesn't digest anymore psychologically to know that this is not even your burden to bear. This is not, but it is though, but it isn't. You know what I mean? Like it was for the purposes of what you could liberate yourself from, but what you're liberating yourself from isn't even rightfully yours, if that makes sense. Like you gotta really be righteous, or calling in righteousness constantly to keep your head on straight, like the Queen of Swords, and focused on the task at hand anyway. Because it's like you don't even really have time to consider the entitlement of whose sin it is and whose sin it isn't, and where the curse came from, and who it belongs to, before you just have to be the one to break it and to carry on something new. So if you get stuck in that place, almost feeling a woe is me, or a resentment for what's been ultimately passed down to you one way or another, you won't fulfill the mission. It'll be a failed mission, and you'll find yourself having, or not having to, but being offered the opportunity to recover it once again, but on different terms. That's what I'm getting with the devil here, like on different, more harsh terms. Yeah. So that's a lot. The psychology of that, the physicality of that, to have to thrust yourself into extenuating circumstances, under the psychology of it all, and then the spirit, that, you know, that low morale for what was lost or how there was a loss. That's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to manage. And then to look across the way, you know, or not far from outside of your realm of reality and see people experiencing the very opposite or something on the other end of the spectrum of that. You know, there being a fanfare for a homecoming, a coronation, an ordination, a crowning, a appointment, whatever this is, like to see that and be like, damn, that could have been me had I done X, Y, and Z. That's brutal. That's brutal. And I was saying that like something about a harsh or rigid truth or something. I did say that with the Queen of Swords. Six of Pentacles. Some type of gift exchange. Maybe a Pollyanna. Let's see, where did that go? I think like right there. Let's see. That's also like definitely a what goes around comes around type of card, you know. Cause and effect. Reap what you sow. You know, you could be up one minute, down the next. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Like, that's all of what's wrapped up in that card. Let me see. Two of Swords. Some type of blocked exchange, blocked gift exchange. Or where there was to be some type of transfer or exchange, it's stopped, or it's been interrupted. Three of Pentacles. A work transfer? It's like somebody wanted to get transferred to another. This is real random. Like somebody wanted to get transferred to another office or to another assignment. Oh, okay. So this is given that, like, as I was saying, for that more detrimental circumstance that I'm speaking of, it's like someone now wanting to work, to do the work, and wanting to do so, again, as I said, with the same benefits or support that they had before, like almost feeling entitled to, or just, you know, pleading, as sometimes in those Six of Pentacles cards, they can look like they're almost begging for mercy, you know, for lenience, maybe even claiming ignorance with the Two of Swords, or they didn't see something, they didn't know something, they weren't aware, and now they are. So can they, you know, can they have grace? Can they have mercy? They'll get on the good foot this time, you know, with a little bit of patience. They know the way now, but it's like I said, it's different terms now, and there are different entanglements that have been like almost a dark covenant, so to speak, that has been reestablished, recycled maybe because of the failure to breach and the time frame that was allotted to do so. But this is someone like almost looking to have the support, the guidance that they were once privy to. It's like, oh, come on, I didn't know, like now I do, so help me out, give me a break here, please, like just help me. I'll do what I need to do, or I'll work hard, or I'll do the work, whatever it is that they're pledging or promising or proclaiming. It's like you got all the space and opportunity in the world, but the support that you're looking for is just not here. It's a different era, it's a different cycle. The mercy and grace that you feel entitled to, it's in the form of redemption itself, of having the opportunity to be redirected in the first place, because you could not have any at all, so it's like, if you can, as I was saying before, like if you can see the gift in the curse, in a sense, you might actually be all right, but it's hard to see, i.e. the Two of Swords. It's hard to see the forest for the trees. All you can see is the work. All you can see is, the unkempt fields, or maybe even barren lands, God forbid, as far as the eye can see. When you're in a position such as that, the glimmer of hope has to be fabricated by faith. That was this era. This was this pathway here, where, like I said, it was always a relentless battle, but the focus was by faith, and so was the outcome and the achievement. Fear was the fuel in this energy, and so now that's recycling, transmitting through that machine all over again, because it wasn't purged, it wasn't released. You're grappling with that, and also still the distance yet to cover by way of what you may have refused or not been distracted to do before, again, when the road was a lot more smooth to do so. Believe it or not, it didn't seem to be. It seemed to be long and grueling, and you don't know when the end, if ever the end. So you would want to take the shortcut. You would want to take the leg up. You would want to cut a side deal or backdoor deal or a diabolical deal, whatever it is, because it seemed more promising than it was to pull your sleeves up and get to work. But alas, that's the biggest payoff. That's proven to be the biggest payoff at this point. So 3 of Pentacles, somebody still faced with the same amount of work, if not more, but under worse conditions, is the highlight. All right, let's see. Hurry up. I don't know, this one is 5:44. This one dragged for me. It was kind of hard to, I don't know, to get it out of something. It's weird. And to think, Knight of Cups. Yeah, somebody may be apologetic now or emotional. They're emotionally driven at this point, or motivated, emotionally motivated. and they want their cup filled. But like I said, so far, this is where the Ace of Cups is. Ain't no other cup in this spread so far but the one that they're bringing to the table, which as I see, needs to be filled more than it can be offered or poured in, or more than it has anything to offer. It's like trying to get, what do they say, like water from a rock or blood from a turnip. So it could be someone petitioning for a resource or to a resource that has grown cold, or has grown rigid, or again, barren, where they would typically get support or help, or again, a leg up, access, some level of influence, empowerment. Those resources are not plentiful anymore, if they ever were, or they're not available to whomever is seeking it. So it's like somebody is really being faced with getting it how they live, or finding another way, which again adds another layer to the journey, another layer to the obligations, I should say, of the journey. Judgment, yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's something definitely very rigid and absolute here that is just not up for negotiation. It's like the Knight of Cups. My phone lighting up at 5:47. The Knight of Cups wanting to make a deal, make a bargain. Like, all right, I got this. Will you give me this if I promise to do this? And it's like, oh no, there's no more bargains. There are no more negotiations. There's no bargaining at this point in juncture. As I said, from the middle ground, it's like, this is what is required. This is what is expected. You do it or you don't, and you won't, or you do or you won't. You know what I mean? Like, you do it and you're good, or you don't, and that's fine too. It's all a matter of your choice, but it won't be on account of what you feel should just be par for the course in terms of support. Like, it just should be done because, almost like position itself to be in a dependent state in some way, in a way, like almost consider guilting someone into a place of support, or into submission, or into agreement in some way to support an agenda or support someone's efforts, because it's just the nice thing to do, or it's the charitable thing to do, or it's the righteous thing to do. Like, people could definitely play on the whole, like, you supposed to be spiritual, you supposed to be religious, you supposed to be a Christian, you supposed to be whatever, you know what I mean? It should be expected of you to assert yourself, or make yourself available a certain type of way for the purposes of someone else's well-being, when it's fully their responsibility. It's fully their responsibility as to why they're in a position of need or whatever, of destitution, or what's the other D word I heard? Despair, not despair, but like when you're at a deficit, or whatever the case may be in the first place. And then since they are, it's still your duty as a fine human being to see them through it. It's like, no, everybody's had to go this middle path. Everybody has to go this middle passage, so to speak. Everybody has the same invitation to go that way in their own specialized, I don't even know what to call it, like their own unique unfolding of it, So where we all end up can never really be blame shifted on anything or attributed to anything in some ways as well, to anything or anyone but ourselves and the choices that we made to go along. Let me see. One more time. One more card. One more time. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Somebody's like, I know, I got that. Yeah, just give me one more chance. One more chance to turn it around. I promise I got it this time. I got it. It's all in here. It's all in my... It's like, yeah, okay, you got it. There you go. There's your second, maybe second, third, fourth, whatever. But here's another chance to do your thing. But these are just the terms. Take it or leave it. No excuses, no negotiations. Like, you take this or you don't. Oh, that came out just like this. The King of Pentacles. Yeah, and see, that's, I don't know. Because after the King, that could be one of the fears, though, actually, is that oftentimes taking that road less traveled, whatever it is for whomever, uniquely, comes at some great cost. You either pay it up front or you pay it on the back end. And it's like maybe someone is still holding or was holding on for too long and too tightly on the things that were required of them to kind of surrender, or sacrifice even in some ways, in order to ultimately come right back around to this place. It was like you only really had to give it up for a certain amount of time, but the problem was there was no guarantee of what that timing may be and when, exactly you might see yourself come back around or recover or whatever, or even achieve this ideal that you were striving for in the first place. But the illusion with the Devil card is that, you are glamored and charmed with projections of guarantee and longevity that you don't realize until you're in the midst of a bad contract or a bad deal are just not the case. It's like buying a lemon and not realizing it until well past, the lemon law time frame, or when you could return it, or whatever the case may be, or well past the warranty. And now it's like all that has occurred is now on your shoulders. Everything that has gone wrong or that is malfunctioning is on you to fix. You took on the ownership of it, regardless of whether you feel it's fair or not. It's on you. You're the living, breathing one. And so you can either choose to get it fixed, or you can scrap the car or take your losses. And I don't know, like there are choices to be made, but I feel like it's at a great cost and a sacrifice to whomever at this point is faced with them. And those stakes, or what's the right word? Those terms are so high now that it feels unfair. It feels absorbent, it feels consuming even. But, when you signed that paperwork because you were hyped to get the car, you ultimately signed your fate, assigned your fate to whatever fluke may happen by the things that, the things that you couldn't have predicted would go wrong or not be up to par by the standards that were promised or advertised. So I feel like that's where people are, some folks are finding themselves. But the flip side, the upside that I also see is that this is now obtaining that Ace of Pentacles, this is like a glimpse of the potential, I would say. So where, of course, there's the great sacrifice that is called for, there's also the potential of the reward, or it coming back to you. Just, like I said, could have done it then, but now you get to do it now. It might be different terms, but it's still possible to do it. That's the thing that I'm seeing now. Like, for people to evolve in a way that is more in alignment with who they've been designed to be, divinely designed to be, in order to secure this sense of, this actual, not even just a sense of it, but this actual security and prosperity, again, that was always the focus in the first place, but doing it in a way that's more sustainable, maybe even eternal, that's much more long lasting and fulfilling in the end. The only real difference is the timing, of completion, which everybody's on their own timeline anyway. And again, the fact that it's different terms in order now. Certain things that you could do before, you can't do now. Certain things that seem to be no holds barred are like immediately penalizing now, maybe even consequential in spirit and in flesh. So it's like the stakes are just higher. But like I said, there's the potential is there, but there's also the call for the sacrifice or the surrender. And it just depends on how much someone covets what they're holding on to in the short run, compared to what they stand to gain in the long run. But that question before was different. It was just like a softer probe then than it is now, because it's kind of like do or die now, where the temptation was so great to say, oh, that sounds real cute, but I'm gonna go over here, that you almost couldn't help. Like, you had to be a special person, as I said, to bypass that, to refuse it, to resist it. Now it ain't really so tempting after you kind of been through the fire and you realize that everything that glitters isn't gold anyway. But it's still the nostalgia and the yearning for that false sense of fulfillment and security as you mourn it, for it, knowing, coming to terms with it, with the fact that it will never be what it was in that regard and by those means and methods. And now, as I said, grappling with the consideration of how you reclaim that effect now with the new terms that are in order, with less of the support and resources that seemingly perhaps than you had to do so before, or the access that you had to do so before, and with higher stakes. Because if you don't achieve it by these new means and methods or measures, you have really nothing to look forward to. You see what I'm saying? It's like literally do or die, because this is done. You can't go back to that, really. After the devil gets what is owed, you're discarded anyway, and you'll be so tired, if you ain't already, from dealing with that energy on its terms, that you'll tap out. You wouldn't want to go back. But the prospect of this new way, or evolved way, righteous way perhaps, is so foreign and seems so massive, and maybe demanding to some, but certainly commanding in a way that also seems kind of impossible, or indomitable. But if there's evidence that it can be done, as I said, because everybody's had the same array of choices in some way, shape, or form, then that's really like what cancels it out. Like, if it can be done, then it kind of shortens the learning curve, or the grading curve in this case, for others that would want to make the excuse otherwise. It's been done. So that means it's possible. And if it's possible for one, it's possible for all. No excuses. So I feel like that's the part that this display, like almost, again, like a announcement, coronation, whatever this is, of like leaders being exalted. That was the word out, like exalted, appointed, ordained, whatever, recognized, called out, highlighted, is not so much to say, aha, they did it, you didn't, or they get rewarded, you don't. It's ultimately the beacon, to, as I'm saying, to exemplify the fact that everyone has a chance by their own choices. So, I don't know. This is kind of weird for me today. But I'm going to take it and I'm going to post it. So, to bless the ear that hears it, you know what I'm saying? Because I was low key, I was going to do a Sagittarius reading today, but I would have been pissed if these were the cards. But if I really sat down with the intention to do a Sag reading, it probably wouldn't have turned out like this. It probably would have been on a whole nother level. So anyway, look out for that before the end of the season, because I'm feeling froggy to do at least one more, maybe two, before the season closes. But yeah, this is what the message is on this fine Saturday. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay warm. If you live anywhere where I live, it's freezing outside. Like, Mother Nature is just pissed. Cold-blooded. Like the Queen of Swords, man. It's freezing. It's frigid out there. But nonetheless, we're all alive and breathing and, vital enough to complain about it. So there is the gift. So, and I'm grateful for it nonetheless. When I need to go out, I just layer up, bundle up, and I do what I gotta do. I'm happy to have that activity of my limbs and be in my right mind and have the freedom to move about. So, me complaining is just me complaining. But all in all, I'm very grateful for the gift of grace in my life, for sure. And I pray the same for you. So anyway, thanks for listening and watching again. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.